By 1964, when Gilligan's Island first aired, the cast had no idea the show would outlive almost all of them. Today, 8 of those faces are gone. Their final locations stretch from the Pacific Ocean to a Reno cemetery to a Hollywood mausoleum. Here is where they all went. At number 1 is Bob Denver, who put on a sailor's hat in 1964 and never quite took it off. He was 29 when the cameras rolled, a former math and history teacher from a Catholic elementary school in Pacific Palisades who had stumbled into acting through a sister working as a secretary on the Dobie Gillis production lot. That earlier role made him a beatnik. Gilligan made him a household face for 60 years. The character was a grown man with a child's instincts, and Denver played him without a single moment of condescension. People who knew him said the goofiness was technique, not temperament. In private, he was shy, intellectual, well-read, and reportedly kind to everyone on the call sheet. He was also the one who pushed CBS to add Russell Johnson and Dawn Wells to the opening credits, and the one who insisted Wells get equal publicity with Tina Louise. A lead actor with leverage used it to share it. Denver married 4 times. 3 of those marriages produced 4 children: Megan, Patrick, Emily, and Colin. His 4th marriage, to Dreama Peary in 1976, lasted 29 years and held until the very end. By May of 2005, he was in a hospital undergoing quadruple heart bypass surgery. Within 4 months, the throat cancer overtook him. Bob Denver died on September 2, 2005, at Wake Forest University Baptist Medical Center in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, age 70. Dreama, and all 4 children were at his bedside. His body was cremated and his ashes were given to his family. Where they ended up has never been publicly disclosed. On screen, Gilligan never escaped the island. In real life, Bob Denver vanished without an address. Number 2 is Alan Hale Jr., the man who played the skipper. He was 43 when the show premiered, the son of major character actor Alan Hale Sr., and he had begun his career as an infant in one of his father's silent films. The skipper was meant to be a barking captain, and Hale turned him into something different, a frustrated father figure whose anger always melted before it landed. The hat slap, the little buddy voice, the long-suffering double-take when Gilligan ruined another rescue. What most viewers never knew is that Hale had served in the United States Coast Guard during World War II from 1942 to 1945. The seamanship in his performance was real. After the show, the typecasting was so total that he opened a Beverly Hills restaurant called Alan Hale's Lobster Barrel and greeted customers at the door in his skipper hat. He turned the trap into a business on his own terms. Hale married twice, first to Bettina Reed Dorr from 1943 to 1964, with whom he had 4 children, then to Naomi Ingram from 1964 until his death 26 years later. Naomi was beside him when thymus cancer was killing him at St. Vincent Medical Center in Los Angeles. He had kept the diagnosis secret even from his closest co-stars. Dawn Wells later said she had not known he was sick at all. Hale died on January 2, 1990, age 68. Then something quiet happened. The United States Coast Guard contacted Naomi and offered him a full military funeral in honor of his wartime service. She declined. Hale had asked specifically to be cremated and returned to the sea. Dawn Wells attended the service alone, representing the rest of the cast. His ashes were scattered into the Pacific Ocean. The hat-slapping captain who barked at Gilligan for 3 seasons spent his off-camera hours visiting children's hospitals in costume. He ended up exactly where the script always said he belonged, in the water. From a captain whose ashes went to the Pacific to a guest star with no resting place at all, the man whose voice defined Disney's Captain Hook chose, in the end, to give his entire body away. Number 3 is Hans Conried, who appeared in only 2 episodes of Gilligan's Island as a confused pilot named Wrongway Feldman. He was 47 when the role first aired in 1964, and the character became one of the show's only recurring figures. His career away from the island was enormous. Conried voiced Captain Hook in Walt Disney's 1953 Peter Pan, Snidely Whiplash on Dudley Do-Right, and Wally Walrus on The Woody Woodpecker Show. He played Uncle Tanoose 19 times on Make Room for Daddy. Born in Baltimore in 1917, he had studied at Columbia and joined Orson Welles' Mercury Theater before any of it. Conried married Margaret Grant in 1942 and remained with her for the next 40 years. They had 4 children together. A major heart attack caught him on January 4, 1982. He died the following day in Burbank, California, age 64. His body was donated to medical science per his wishes. There is no grave, no marker, no plot. Of every name on this list, Hans Conried alone has no physical resting place anywhere. The voice that defined Captain Hook for 60 years of American childhood belongs to a man whose body is in no cemetery. Disney's most identifiable villain made himself useful to medical students he would never meet. Number 4 is Natalie Schaefer, who played Lovey Howell and who lied about her age to so many people for so many decades that even her closest friends were stunned when the truth came out in her obituary. She was actually 63 when the show premiered. She had been telling everyone she was 51. Schaefer was born in Red Bank, New Jersey on November 5, 1900, into a German Jewish family. By 1927, she was on Broadway. By 1941, she was in Hollywood. Lovey was meant to be a humorless grande dame, and Schaefer specifically asked the writers to read the play Dulcie by George S. Kaufman so they would understand what she wanted instead. A dizzy, scatterbrained, slightly endearing socialite who genuinely loved her husband. The performance that emerged was kinder than the script demanded. That kindness was the entire point. She married actor Louis Calhern in 1934 and divorced him in 1942. They had no children, and she famously never even told him her real age. In 1946, she became engaged to character actor Charles Butterworth, who was killed shortly after in a single-car crash. She never married again. Schaefer invested aggressively in Los Angeles real estate and quietly became the only Gilligan castaway who was an actual real-life millionaire. Her estate at death was estimated at $10 million. She gave most of it away. Schaefer died of liver cancer at her Beverly Hills home on April 10, 1991, age 90. Dawn Wells, who had become her caretaker in her final years, was nearby. Per her instructions, the obituary disclosed her real age. She had said she wanted readers to react with, "She was how old?" And the Los Angeles Times complied. She was cremated and her ashes were scattered into the Pacific Ocean off Point Fermin Light in San Pedro, California. Her largest bequest, between $1.5 and $2 million, went to the Lillian Booth Actors Home, where the renovated outpatient wing was renamed in her honor. The richest woman ever to play a rich woman on television was, in real life, the only Gilligan castaway who had real money. She used it to take care of the actors her industry had forgotten. Number 5 played a Japanese sailor in 2 episodes, a mad scientist named Dr. Boris Balankoff in 2 more, and roughly every ethnicity Hollywood could think to assign him over a 50-year career. Vito Scotti was Italian-American. The trade press called him the man of 1,000 faces. Born Vito Giusto Scozzari in San Francisco on January 26, 1918, he lost his father in Tunis as an infant and spent his early childhood in Naples. He returned to America in 1925 and worked his way through nightclubs, Broadway, and television. Scotti married former Peruvian flamenco dancer Irene Scozzari in 1949. They had 2 children, Carmen and Ricardo. Carmen was one of the first patients to undergo pioneering spinal implant surgery, and Vito spent years raising money for a scholarship fund named after her. Irene died in 1979. He later married Beverly Scotti, who stayed with him to the end. Scotti died of lung cancer at the Motion Picture and Television Country House in Woodland Hills, California, on June 5, 1996, age 78. He was interred at Hollywood Forever Cemetery in the Abbey of the Psalms Mausoleum, beside his first wife Irene. The most authentic Italian-American character actor in Hollywood, spent 50 years being hired exclusively to be inauthentic. A man of 1,000 faces had only one of his own. Number 6 is Jim Backus, the actor who played Thurston Howell III, and who came to Gilligan's Island already carrying 2 of the most distinct voices in American entertainment. He had been Mr. Magoo since 1949, work that won 2 Academy Awards for Best Animated Short. He had played James Dean's father in Rebel Without a Cause, vacuuming in an apron, in a performance that became one of the most analyzed pieces of 1950s American film. He was 51 when Gilligan's Island premiered. Born February 25, 1913, in Cleveland, Ohio, raised in upper-middle-class Bracknell, he had attended Kentucky Military Institute alongside future film star Victor Mature before studying at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. Years later, he summarized his entire career choice with one line: "I decided to try radio as a source of livelihood because I like to eat regularly." Backus married briefly to Betty Keene from 1939 to 1942. He then married Henny Backus in 1943 and remained with her for 46 years. They never had biological children. They co-wrote 4 humor books together, including Backus Strikes Back and What Are You Doing After the Orgy? Henny outlived him by 15 years and is buried beside him. Parkinson's disease eventually took his work away from him. By the time the 1981 reunion film, The Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island, was filming, Backus could only manage a brief cameo at the end. He died on July 3, 1989, age 76, of pneumonia, a complication of Parkinson's. Of the 7 castaways, he was the first to go. He was buried at Pierce Brothers Westwood Village Memorial Park in Los Angeles, in the central lawn section, with Henny later joining him. His flat marker remembers him as a darling husband. His near neighbors at the cemetery include Marilyn Monroe, Dean Martin, Truman Capote, and Donna Reed. Of all 7 Gilligan castaways, Jim Backus is the only one who has a traditional grave a visitor can stand at and read. The man who created Mr. Magoo, who stood opposite James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause, who voiced cartoons that won 2 Oscars, that man is remembered today almost entirely as a millionaire on a desert island. He won more awards than anyone else on this call sheet and is the least remembered for any of them. If you have made it this far and you are enjoying the channel, please subscribe. We tell stories like this one every week, and your subscription is what keeps the lights on. Number 7 is the only cast member on this list whose career got bigger after Gilligan's Island. Kurt Russell was 13 when he appeared in the 1965 episode Gilligan Meets Jungle Boy. He played a feral child who could only repeat words back. Walt Disney had him under a 10-year contract by then. Russell was born in Springfield, Massachusetts, on March 17, 1951, the son of actor Bing Russell. By the early 1970s, Disney's top star was him. He married Susan Hubley in 1979 and had a son, Boston. They divorced in 1983, and that February 14th, Russell began his relationship with Goldie Hawn, a partnership that has now lasted 43 years without a wedding. Their son Wyatt arrived in 1986. He is alive at 75, still working, splitting his time between homes in Snowmass Village, Manhattan, and Palm Desert. Recent credits include the Christmas Chronicles films and the Fast and Furious franchise. The little boy in the leopard skin loincloth in 1965 went on to play Snake Plissken, Wyatt Earp, R.J. McCready, and a god from another galaxy. His Gilligan guest spot is a footnote on the resume of the only person here whose star burns brighter today than when the show was on the air. Number 8 is Russell Johnson, the actor who played the professor, and whose real life was harder than the script anyone gave him. He was 39 when the show premiered, born November 10, 1924 near Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, the eldest of 6 children whose father died before he was 10. His mother sent him and 2 brothers to Girard College in Philadelphia, a school for poor orphan boys, where he finished high school. Then came the war. Johnson served as a B-24 bombardier in the United States Army Air Forces. In March of 1945, his plane was shot down over the Philippines near Zamboanga on Mindanao. He broke both ankles in the crash. He came home with the Purple Heart, the Air Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster, the Bronze Star, and the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal. He studied acting at the Actors Laboratory in Hollywood on the GI Bill and spent the next decade playing villains in westerns. The professor was the role that finally made him a good guy, and he was so popular that the writers had to rewrite the opening credits to include him. Johnson married actress Kay Cousins in the late 1940s. They had 2 children, son David and daughter Kimberly. Kay died in 1980. David died in 1994 at age 36, and that loss reshaped Russell Johnson completely. He spent the next 20 years as a volunteer activist for HIV and AIDS research and fundraising. He remarried Constance Dane in 1982, and they moved to Bainbridge Island, Washington, in 1988. Russell Johnson died at home on Bainbridge Island on January 16, 2014, of kidney failure, age 89. His agent said he died peacefully in his sleep. Dawn Wells wrote on her Facebook page that day, "My two favorite people are now gone. The professor passed away this morning. My heart is broken." Johnson was cremated, and his ashes were given to his family. The man who built a shortwave radio out of a coconut had, in real life, broken both his ankles parachuting out of a B-24 over Mindanao. Professor Hinckley's competence was never invented for the script. It was lived first, from a war hero who lost his son to one of the youngest faces on the call sheet. The most recent of the cast to die, and the only castaway buried beside her own mother in the city where she was born. Number 9 is Dawn Wells, who played Mary Ann Summers, and who in October of 2018 had to launch a GoFundMe to pay for her assisted living because the show that ran in syndication for 53 uninterrupted years had paid her almost nothing. She was 25 at the premiere. She would die at 82. Across that span, by her own count, her best year on Gilligan's Island earned her about $50,000. The show's producer reportedly earned $90 million. Wells was born in Reno, Nevada, on October 18, 1938, the great-granddaughter of an Old West stagecoach driver. She started pre-med at Stevens College in Missouri before switching to a theater degree at the University of Washington. She won the 1959 Miss Nevada pageant, competed in the 1960 Miss America competition, and was working professionally in Hollywood within 2 months of moving there. Mary Ann was the show's quiet center, pigtails, gingham, no edge, no agenda. Wells played her without irony, and that decision was the whole performance. She married talent agent Larry Rosen in 1962. The marriage ended in 1967, the same year Gilligan's Island left the air. She never remarried. She had no biological children. Decades later, she became a caretaker for Natalie Schaefer in the older actress's final years, and was reportedly left a portion of Schaefer's estate, though Wells declined to confirm publicly. Dawn Wells died on December 30, 2020, in Los Angeles, of complications of COVID-19, age 82. She was the last of the 7 castaways to die. One more loss in a year already saturated with them. Her fans had raised nearly $200,000 for her by then. Her reported net worth at death was approximately $50,000. She was buried at Mountain View Cemetery in Reno, Nevada, Pinecrest Lawn section, sharing a headstone with her mother Evelyn. The Kansas farm girl from the show came home in the end to the city in Nevada where she was actually born, and into the same plot as the woman who raised her. The face that appeared in syndicated reruns in every American time zone for half a century died with less money in the bank than a single residual check from a modern hit sitcom would generate in an afternoon. Mary Ann came home to her mother. If you grew up watching this show, leave a comment below telling me which castaway you remember most clearly, and which one hits hardest now that you know what happened to them. I read every reply, and number 10 is the last one still here. Tina Louise was 30 when Gilligan's Island premiered, and she is 92 as I record this script. Born Tina Blacker in New York City on February 11, 1934, she had studied at the Actors Studio with Lee Strasberg, who she has said influenced her life more than anyone else. She had won the 1959 Golden Globe for New Star of the Year for the film God's Little Acre. She was starring with Carol Burnett on Broadway in Fade Out, Fade In when Hollywood pulled her away to play Ginger Grant. Ginger was written as a hard-edged temptress, and Louise refused to play her that way. She negotiated a compromise, Ginger, as a kind, slightly bewildered Marilyn Monroe figure who used her glamour as survival rather than weapon. The result is the only character on the island who is performing a character of her own. She fought constantly with the producers. She believed she had been hired as the central character and was furious to discover the show was an ensemble. She refused to appear in any of the 3 reunion films. 4 different actresses played Ginger across those projects without her. She has spent 6 decades insisting Gilligan ruined her film career. Louise married television talk show host Les Crane in 1966, divorced in 1974, and never remarried. They had one daughter, Caprice Crane, who became a novelist and television writer. She earned $1,500 per episode on Gilligan's Island, the highest among the cast alongside Jim Backus, and has said in 2025 that she still does not get residuals. She is alive in May of 2026. She lives in a Manhattan apartment building she has occupied for decades. She told the New York Times this March, "I'd like to be known for other things." She made a rare public appearance on the Upper East Side in June of 2025. She has in recent years gently softened on the show, telling reporters after Dawn Wells died that she had loved doing her part, no matter what people had said about her over the years. The cast member who refused for 60 years to come back for a reunion, the holdout, the difficult one, the only ginger anyone really remembers, is also the only one of the original 7 still here. Hollywood's difficult woman has outlived every co-star who ever called her that. They ended in a Reno cemetery beside a mother, in the Pacific off 2 coasts, in a Hollywood mausoleum, in a Westwood lawn, and one in no location at all.